okay to do the stuff like what Conor McGregor is doing.
It's only for fights, but it's extremely traditional.
Giving him so much attention. Like, why are we treating him almost as if he's a god?
A lot of us really, fall in love with Thailand and Muay Thai, and we're learning the traditions of Thailand.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is the one we've all been waiting for. It's good night, freaking Irene!
let's get ready to rumble!
Time! And knows how to knock people the fire truck out.
And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Chase Muay Thai and MMA podcast. I am Kelly from Fight Chase, here with my co-host,
Kurt Brooks from Carson Kickboxing Club.
Today's podcast, we're going to talk about the traditions in martial arts, and if with the rise of the popularity of MMA, are the traditions actually going by the wayside? We're going to get into a few points of views that we've had. We posted on our Facebook page, and we got a lot of good responses from some professional mixed martial artists, some people that are just doing martial arts to get in shape, some very traditional martial artists. So we'll get into that. Now, before we get into that, I have a super awesome announcement to make that next week we're recording with our good friend, former teammate, and UFC fighter Khalil Roundtree Jr. We're super stoked to be having him on all the way here from Thailand. So we're going to have a full interview with Khalil on what's going on with his new training and what's going on in his life. Also, we have released all of our episodes on YouTube. So they are on YouTube. You can listen to them. They're in a format on a playlist, so you can listen to them one by one on Fight Chase on YouTube. And lastly, if you are looking to support us, because we need support, just we do, you can go to anchor.fm/Fight Chase. You will find our homepage, and for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help support us and help us grow. We have a lot of things in store that we want to do to keep growing and keep giving you awesome content and keep getting interesting people on here, other than Kurt and I, because we're pretty interesting, but it's fun to have some other people on. So with that said, we're going to get right into it. And traditions in martial arts. Let's go. First off, what is your point of view on this situation, Kurt? Like, what do you feel about the lack of or the need for more of the traditions in modern martial arts?
Okay, so I guess here in modern martial arts, I guess the argument is a lot of people are saying, we need to get away from traditional things such as bowing, bowing on and off the mat, bowing to your instructors, things like that. People see as kind of almost like pretentious is what I hear a lot of people, that especially people that come from like a wrestling background. Like I've heard it said before, like fighters that are coming from a wrestling background. I remember somebody asked me one time before, like, how come in jiu-jitsu everybody has to line up and bow to the instructor? Like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we, giving him so much attention? Like, why are we treating him almost as if he's a god or something along those lines? And, that's kind of the opposite side of the argument, where in traditional martial arts, it's more about showing respect. Like, I have my students bow, but I don't have them bow to me. I bow to them, and then they bow back to me at the same time. Like, we're both bowing to each other as like a sign of mutual respect. And I know that a lot of people that are coming from different backgrounds that aren't so heavy in bowing and stuff like that from traditional martial arts kind of see it as a negative. What's your take on it, Kelly?
My personal take is not it's not a submissive thing, and I think that's where a lot of people get into, like, I'm not doing that. I had a conversation with a fighter, and he was telling me that he did not like a certain instructor because they called him master. He's like, he's not my master. Like that was a weird term to be used, which I agree. That's kind of like, no man is bigger than me. Like we'll be on equal levels. You can show me something, but it doesn't mean that you're my master, But I think that what's happening is people are confusing the respect with like a submission, like being submissive to that person. Whereas me personally, I still bow when I enter and exit the mat space. That was kind of driven into me at Vanderlei's, and Vanderlei's being an MMA gym, it was kind of odd, but we all lined up in rank for jiu-jitsu, and we were bowing before, and you go on the mat, you bow when you leave the mat area, and it's just something that stuck with me, and it shows respect. And it's when you do it going on to the mat, to me, you're just showing respect to the training area. There's no person that I'm saying, hey, thanks, being submissive to a person. It's like you're just, giving respect to the area that you're going to be training. And it's the same thing as, we'll get into it more, but the traditions here in Muay Thai they're almost set in stone with the Y crew and things like that. So, and that's been going on for a long time. Now, they don't do Y crew in training. It's only for fights, but it's extremely traditional. Entering and exiting the ring in fights in Muay Thai is extremely traditional, and nobody bats an eye at it here in Thailand. So it's very cut and dry. This is what you do. So I prefer that respect. I mean, I remember at Vanderlei's when we'd have new students or students that knew better that didn't bow or didn't line up, or when we would bow out of class and you kind of shake hands or do whatever you're doing, that wouldn't do it. And I know when I was still a blue belt that some of the higher belts would be like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Because everyone's paying the same respect. And then we would have somebody that's kind of just going through the line, slapping hands like we were in, high school or grade school dodgeball or something. So I prefer it. And I mean, you have a little more as a black belt running a school, like what you think of it. But for me, it's just the show of respect to my instructor who's giving me their knowledge, and I'm bowing or whatever it is that I'm doing, showing them the respect and the gratitude for them giving me that knowledge. And then I pass that on to someone else that I trained with. We trained hard together. I give you that respect. And if it's just a bow, okay, whatever. But I think that the biggest thing is a lot of people are seeing it, a bowing or something of that nature is a submission. And we're too alpha and we're too badass at an MMA gym to do that. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. And I prefer it was, it stayed. But I've seen even high-level jiu-jitsu gyms now, that bowing in and out of the mats isn't really a big deal.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've heard is, like we don't need to bow to get onto the mat or bow to our partners because we earn our respect while we're rolling in jiu-jitsu, for instance, or we earn our respect while we're sparring. So we don't really need to do all the bowing and this or that, and that's kind of an interesting take on it. But to me, in martial arts, the bowing is almost like shaking someone's hand. Like,
exactly.
Not everybody is used to bowing, but everybody's used to shaking somebody's hand. So a lot of times people are kind of viewing it as the same thing. Like, yes. If we're not bowing to each other, it's almost like the same thing if I put out my hand and then you looked at my hand and turned around.
Exactly. How I would see it is, say you went into a business meeting When you walk in that room, would you not shake their hand? When you leave that meeting, would you not shake their hand? You would. That's a show of respect. That's all. And that's exactly it. I feel like the bowing is I show that person respect. And it's just the martial art way of shaking hands. I mean, it's a very good analogy of it.
Yeah, and I think really where people got a bad taste in their mouth about kind of those traditional traditions, I guess, for lack of a better word, is like back when people were doing, like a traditional martial art like karate, and you had these instructors that acted like, basically they had a stick up their butt, like they didn't act like a real human being. They were just so proper, so this and that, and they expected so much from their students as far as respect goes.
Yeah, Cobra Kai.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where people really got turned off. But I think it's kind of had, a lot of times it has a negative impact that we lost those little shows of respect in martial arts, in my opinion. Like, you just get people that are more concentrated on the fighting aspect of it, and they just want to look cool and beat people up, and you don't learn the other side of it. The humility, the respect, all that type of stuff, I think gets lost a lot of times if you don't teach it, especially when you're teaching it to like kids or even like just young adults that are coming up. Like a lot of times I feel like they need to learn that with fighting. Like you need to learn those traditions with fighting, because if you didn't have a background that kind of instilled that into you, then what am I teaching you? I'm just teaching you how to beat somebody up, basically.
Yeah, there's no self-control. There's no respect for another person. You're teaching them how to kick somebody's ass. So, think about this. You've trained at many, many jiu-jitsu academies, and so have I. Have you ever gone on the mat to roll with someone while you're training and not slapped hands?
Not that I can remember. I mean, maybe there was some weird incident where we just forgot to slap hands, but yeah, we're only slapping hands.
Like maybe a Shark Tank, but even that usually, you slap hands real quick and then go. But yeah, I mean that it's like that's just for one, slapping hands like that, the slap and bump is kind of like, okay, we're ready to go. But it's also the same type of thing as the tradition of it. I mean, we've gone to, we've trained at Checkmat. We've trained at the 10th Planet in LA. We trained at all these different gyms, and that's just like a all the way across the board. No matter if you're bowing or not or whatever, that has always been a staple of before you roll, you slap and bump, and then you go. So basically, like, we have all of that. Jiu-jitsu, because you're still, and I think there's a comment on my Facebook about the gi is stupid or something like that. Who needs the gi? Oh, I have a comment that I'll send you on my Instagram, and it's very, 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 very long. I was sitting at I was in a cab with Khalil going somewhere in Bangkok, and I got this first message and I read it and I'm like, what? And then I got another one from the same person, and I don't know this person personally. He's a fighter. And it was these two very long comments on my Instagram about this situation. So I'll have to find it, and I'll pull it up and send it to you. But it was like, he's a fighter. And it was kind of the opposite of, how I feel about this situation. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. As long as you follow the rules of the gym that you go to, what can you do? It's a personal preference, but you're going to go along with your training, wherever you're training, or they won't let you train there. So I'll find this one. But it was very interesting to read. And it was basically, I'm paraphrased, but it was about the gi's not needed, bowing's not needed, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. to each their own. So
What was his point? Like, what did he give a reason as to why it wasn't needed?
I don't know that it was because he's just a fighter. I'm looking at it. I'm gonna look at it right now. And I think if I don't read very well, it's so long. I'm gonna put it in one of those text to speech things and let it just play. I see if you posted this a bit ago, but I can you my thoughts. I can give you my thoughts. I live in Thailand and Russia. I'm from America. I grew up doing martial arts my whole life. In Thailand, I was teaching, learning, and fighting Muay Thai. I have trained in Japan, America, and Thailand. Martial arts, to its core, is a tool of war. I think people lose that. In war, there's no bowing, no tradition. It's kill or be killed. MMA shows what it's all about, with real people doing a real thing. I remember growing up and there was a lot of bowing, a lot of fake respect, but many fake masters. Let me see what else we got here. It's not short, so fake masters. Now, if you're not a legit fighter, it can be found out pretty easy. Now, if you're not, I guess if you're not a legitimate fighter, people can see that easily. Many people teaching when I was a kid never stepped foot in Asia to train, but were self-proclaimed masters. And we had that problem. And he says, I prefer now honesty. You know, you see that problem, especially, remember when jiu-jitsu, like, when it blew up in the States? When we used to go to California, there was a jiu-jitsu gym in every strip mall in California. Like, yep. So, you can be a non-elite athlete instructor, and that could be bad for the sport. It could be bad for the martial art. I mean, we've seen purple belts, blue belts running schools, which I, as a purple belt, don't feel comfortable teaching. And maybe the other people have had more experience teaching aspect-wise, maybe growing up. I've seen schools that have white belt help and teach kids classes. And so maybe they grew up being instructors. But I didn't, so even as a purple belt, and I feel that I know what I'm doing, or I wouldn't have got my purple belt, I don't feel that I'm taking over that, or that I would, on the other hand, I wouldn't be referred to as a fake. Not that this person was doing that. Okay, and things may not seem like respect because you're looking from the outside in, but I can tell you firsthand, many people show respect backstage. So he's talking about being at fights. 80% of the nonsense you see for the cameras, but I prefer now real athletes doing real art. No need for a gi, stuffy old guys demanding your respect. Respect them because they came out of their mom earlier than you, and no race. Yeah, I told you, and no race barriers that martial arts used to have. Okay, so he's saying basically somebody just because they're older than you, which I'm older than most of my training partners, and I've never ever tried to be any more educated or schooled or anything more than my training partner. I've always seen every training partner as an equal to me, and I've always tried to help anyone that I thought I could help. I don't care if it was a higher belt, a lower belt. If I had something that I thought I could provide to help them, I would. So he's giving a broad statement that, like, there's no need for geese, stuffy old guys demanding your respect. So what about, Henzo? That guy deserves all my respect.
Yeah.
Like and you're just saying, oh, the old guy. I mean, it's a broad statement. I don't know this person personally. So,
and it sounds like he had a bad experience too coming up.
Well, I believe he's a Muay Thai or MMA fighter. Maybe Muay Thai fighter, MMA fighter. I would say MMA fighter. I'll have to look at his profile again. Okay, so there's more. It's a sport now, and we can truly see who's the best. Just a side note, Bruce Lee was the self-proclaimed bad boy, but in today's age, he would not need to prove it to be true, and many artists would line up to really see if it was true. I don't know where that would really come from, but I love this age of martial arts. Sometimes the tough guy nonsense is too much, but for the most part of it, the sport is about respect, and fighters respect other fighters 80% of the time. I'm not saying that fighters don't respect each other. He's right. 80% of the time, the fighters respect each other going into the fight, and then when they're done with the fight. And there's an exception to everything. It happens even in jiu-jitsu tournaments. I mean, some people don't like each other, So this statement that this person left is not necessarily about the traditions. He's saying, screw the traditions, or see who's the best in competition. That's okay, but I don't think that's okay for a kid.
Yes.
And that's where most martial arts starts for most people these days, and especially with the rise of MMA. I saw it so many times where a parent, maybe a father, thinks that, okay, they're over their prime where they don't want to take the chance of training, but they'll put their kids in there. And it's because of MMA. That's not because they saw a jiu-jitsu tournament. MMA brought a lot of people into the now where we know martial arts, whether it's jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or Muay Thai or any of the facets of martial arts. But I think the kids, like you said, they need to learn the respect. When I ran a kids class, I ran it like a boot camp. You weren't talking when I was talking, and the parents would thank me when I was done. They're like, thank you. You can, they look at us different as instructors when they're kids, because they always wanted to see you kick. I don't know if you have that now, but like the kids want, kick the bag. Just they wanted to see how tough you were, basically, and it wasn't, but they respected you. So like the parents would be, hey, my kid's acting up, and I got it plenty of times, where they were like, hey, so and so Johnny got in trouble at school, could you kind of do something? And I would end my classes with, for the kids, thank you for putting in the hard work. Thank you guys for not quitting. That's what this is about. I know it gets hard. Try to just be positive, and thank you for respecting your training partners, and thank you for respecting me. And I expect you to go home and do the same respect for your parents and your brothers and sisters and your schoolmates. A big blanket statement of, you already did it here, just keep doing it, and I think I just wanted to keep positive. And I think the traditions of martial arts, aside of the old school, Cobra Kai, karate thing, is about building that respect and helping build character. I think it did for me personally, and I didn't start until I was early 30s, even in martial arts. So it's not, I don't know. I don't see a bad part of the modern day aspect of the traditions.
And the other thing too is the guy that left that comment was saying that 80% of fighters in the back, they're showing respect, which I agree. I think that most fighters do show respect in whatever way that they want to, whether it's words or actions or whatnot. But on the surface level, if you're a casual watcher or you're a kid and you watch MMA, that's not what you see. You don't see that stuff that's behind the scenes. So if you're just watching it as someone that's a casual fan, or you're just, you're a kid, you're going to think that it's okay to do the stuff like what Conor McGregor is doing, like you're going to think that is what fighting is all about. That's what martial arts is all about, unless there is somebody there that is teaching you otherwise, that's setting an example for you otherwise. So I don't think that maybe MMA doesn't have, I think that they do have respect, but I don't think that you see it. And if you're somebody that's on the outside, you're going to have a totally different take. And I think it does need to be taught in some way or form.
Well, MMA, respect doesn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line in UFC and things like that. Now, the Asian market with one, respect is huge, huge. When the fighters are done fighting, typically, especially if it's somebody that trained a lot of Muay Thai, they give respect. They're on their knees and they bow to their opponent after they've won. So that's an Asian culture thing. And the person that left this message, I find it weird that they had so much negative about the tradition, but he didn't talk anything about the Muay Thai traditions. So the Muay Thai traditions are, way deeper than just bowing. I mean, you have to learn you have to learn a full dance routine before, there's a lot to it, and to understand what it is and to how to, like your Moncon, like where you wear it, how you do it, what you do with that. There's a lot of things behind, Muay Thai that is way more, I think, than bowing and karate or jiu-jitsu. So, he didn't touch on that. But I think, yeah, like you said, he may have had a bad, maybe he trained somewhere where he got into it with an instructor or whatever it is, or an instructor probably was like telling him what to do. He seems, this person seems like an alpha fighter, like with the comment left. I mean, he put a lot of time into it. I appreciate his point of view. So I think that might have been a bad experience for that person. And I do understand what he's saying, that, okay, behind the scenes, but like you said, behind the scenes is behind the scenes. That's fight between fighter and fighter. The general audience now is the people that still need to learn. Like you said, if I'm teaching a kid how to break somebody's arm, and that's what we're doing, how to choke someone unconscious, we need to teach them that same respect, that if that person says, I'm sorry, I give up, not to break their arm, or okay, I give up, not to choke them unconscious, because they can. You're teaching them self-control. You're teaching them respect for other people. I am way less likely to ever get in a physical altercation since I've been training, because I was taught humility and respect, whether it's a tradition of bowing or getting my ass beat on the mat. I was humbled, and I think that happens to most of us when you train. I mean, you get beat up by a guy half your size, or you get beat up by a guy twice your age, and it's really an eye-opener when you think you're a tough guy at first. I mean, how many times I dealt with it, a lot of times, because I was one of the older guys at Vanderlei's, but we would have a person come in that was getting ready for the pool parties in Vegas, maybe on some Brazilian supplements. And he would come in to train and be like, yeah. He watches UFC or whatever it was, and they would come to train jiu-jitsu, maybe because they didn't want to get punched in the face. And I would have to train with them. And they were aggressive, they were very aggressive, and then they were humbled very fast,
I think I know who you're talking about.
It's happened. It happened more than once, but I mean, there was one time I was like, Jesus, this guy needs to relax. And then you can make them relax, and then they usually, if they're on that level, they're humiliated. They're not humbled. If they're humbled, they come back and learn. If they're humiliated, they go away, and you don't need that element in a gym anyway. So,
True.
It's not Gold's Gym. I'm not trying to lift the most weight and put it down, so that's, let's see. There's some more comments on here. So that was from the Instagram. I honestly do appreciate his point of view, that he even took the time to write all that. If I could find it again, I'm going to look at that real quick and see, not necessarily his credentials, but what I mean, like what his background is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's photos of him training Muay Thai, and he's in a Muay Thai gym. So yeah, he understands the traditions of Muay Thai, and it looks like a traditional gym in Thailand. So yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't know, personal experience, something bad happened, something like that. So more power to him. Wish him the best. Looks like he's crazy. And I'll leave that in here, because if you guys want to, I don't know, sure the gentleman is doing pull-ups on a fourth floor balcony.
Ew.
On the outside.
Ew.
So he's doing his thing. Dangerous. But that's not for me. Go for
That's
it,
some
homie.
serious good grip strength there.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, that's more power to you. I'm not trying to fall off, but he's doing it on multiple occasions, so that's pretty crazy. But go for it, buddy. I appreciate him sending a comment in, and let's see, where are we? All right, so Timur actually left us a comment. You see that comment there on the Facebook?
Yes, I do.
All right. So what did he say? He was the gentleman that we just had on the podcast, the one from Israel. What did he have to say about the traditions?
So he says, I like it all as long as it's not too long. I've seen 10-minute plus long Y crews and I was falling asleep. I like bows. I bow every time I step on the mats. So just real quick, if people don't know, I think most of the people that listen to this probably do know, but the Y crew is the traditional dance that they do at the beginning of a Muay Thai match. And you see it all the time in Thailand. You don't really see it here in the States too often. And then I'll go ahead and continue on with the second part of his comment. I feel like the entrance is just a way to allow the fighters to express himself. Some do it well and some don't. I'm not a fan of Ryzen/One's big entrances with all the big screens and fireworks, though. I like the clean and simple walkout with cool lights dimming and fading UFC style. So, I completely agree with him.
On which part?
All of it, really. You know, the Y Cruise, I think, is extremely important and it's sacred to the Thais. But sometimes guys are just adding a little bit too much extra in there. You know, like you don't. It doesn't need to be that long. You know what I mean? You're sealing the ring. You're doing your dance, paying respect to your coaches and whatnot. But yeah, it doesn't need to be that long.
And so, if anybody doesn't know, the Y crew, Y is the paying respect. That's what you do when you put your hands together and you bow. It's the same thing when you meet somebody on the street or something like that. That's what they do here in Thailand. And crew is a teacher. So the Y crew is paying respect to your teacher. It's Ramoi is the rest of the whole setup. So there's a whole dance. There's a lot of tradition in all of this. A male fighter goes over the top rope. The mongkon is the piece of headwear that they wear. This can never pass under the ropes. It can never touch the floor. It's very sacred. It's blessed by monks. So when you enter the ring, they go around the ring. And in the Y crew, they're sealing the ring. So they run their hand around the edge of the ring. They pay respect to each of the corners. They seal the ring. This seals out bad spirits. Thailand is very aware, very centered around spirits. They think everything has spirits. Anything living has a spirit. They believe in reincarnation and things like that. They believe that trees have spirits. They believe that a woman cannot enter a ring unless she goes under the ropes. And then they are inside the ropes because the mongkon cannot enter under the ropes. It has to go over the top of the ropes. So a man can enter with his on. A woman has to have hers put on once she gets inside the ropes. Previously, women were not allowed to touch the ropes or the rings themselves. If you go to Lumpini Stadium, there's actually still a sign on the ring itself, and this is modern day. This was 6 months ago that I was there. It says, "Women, please do not touch the ring." Now, this is because they thought, and still do, obviously, that women, if they touch the ring or if they do any of the practices when they are allowed in the ring wrong, that they will bring bad luck in the ring. Now, I was talking to a woman fighter a few days ago that I had met at Top Team. She was flying out. She's from Canada. And I was kind of just trying to get her views on it because there's this conflicting thing, and this goes into the whole traditions right now. There's a conflicting thing with women fighters here in Thailand, which there's a bunch of them now, and they're from all over the world. And there's a bunch of Thai women, is going under the ropes is disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, it's tradition. Her point of view was it's tradition. I will do what's tradition in Muay Thai. Because for a long time, they were never allowed in the ring itself. And then she told me a story that there's this popular story of a fighter that went over the top ropes, a woman. And I believe she said, and that night, 3 fighters got very badly cut. And so the Thais, being very superstitious, were like, that's because of her. And it became like this big uproar. Now, a lot of people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, they're stupid, it's sexist, blah, blah, blah. That's Thailand, all right? So there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can say about it. You can think whatever you want about it. Now, they believe that it was bad because the ring had a spirit, and for the women touching the ring, it would give bad energy. That's why because the rings were all wooden before, and with the wood coming from with the spirits in it, and being built out of the wood, and it had a spirit. And if a woman touched the ring where the fighters were, that it would bring bad luck on the fighters, and they would be injured. So that was one woman's point of view, and she's a fighter. She fights Muay Thai here in Thailand, and I wish more people were kind of that way about a lot of things. I mean, I understand that if it's oppressive to somebody, but my personal opinion is if I'm in another country, in another culture, trying to take part of that culture, this isn't like it's in America and we're kind of just going to do what we want with it like we do with everything else. You kind of make it Americanized. This is the culture in Thailand that has had this martial art that's held in such high regards to the whole country. If I'm going to do this from another part of the world, I'm not going to try and change it. I'm going to go by the rules. I'm not going to play hockey and be like, I'm not using skates because it's not for me. It's like I'm not trying to change something that I'm trying to be involved in. I understand that I'm not a woman, so I can't speak for them, but this is my point of view that if they told me that I needed to do a handstand in the middle of the ring if I was going to be a fighter, then I guess that's what I would do. So in regards to the comment of the long Y crews, I agree. I think a lot of them are very similar when you see them. There's most of the aspects of a Y crew is the same. There's little things that change, and then the end of the Y crew, a lot of people make it very unique to themselves. John Wayne Parr has an awesome one that a lot of Thais don't like because it seems disrespectful, where his name is John Wayne Parr. He pulls out a gun and he shoots his opponent or shoots at his opponent. There's other ones.
Finger gun.
What's that?
I said a finger gun.
Yeah. Well, at one point he had a holster with like a fake gun in it in the ring somewhere. So, yeah, he pulls out a finger gun, he shoots. And there's another one where the fighter pulls out a bow and arrow, imaginary bow and arrow, and shoots it at his opponent. And I actually just saw one, and I just saw a clip of it. I want to say it was on Instagram, where a guy does a scorpion. So he's standing on one foot and kicks his back foot up over his back while he bends over and looks like a scorpion. So there's the end of the Y crew is very unique, but they get long. They do get long.
Yeah, it's unique to the person, but it's also unique to the gym. A lot of times, a lot of fighters from the same gym have the same Y crew.
Yeah, they'll use the same one, and usually it only changes when they get to be a bigger fighter, and they'll add their own aspect into it. Like if you're fighting out of a specific gym, they have like a team Y crew that is with it. Like same thing with their Bangkon is usually the one that the team wears. So all their fighters use the same one. But if we were going to have to get people to engage in it, we would have to Americanize it. We'd have to make it short and sweet. So you could seal the ring, maybe do just you go around, seal the ring. And what I mean by sealing the ring is if you haven't seen it, they walk around each post of the ring and their hand is on the ring the whole time. And they kind of say a little prayer at each post. So if you could do that, maybe do the little dance in the middle and bow to your partner and be done in like a minute or so, I think that would be a lot more acceptable because it is long. And if you do 10 minutes, people are going to get tired. You'll be like, all right, the fight is 15 minutes total, or what is it? It's 5 threes, right? Yeah, 5 threes. So it's 5 threes total. And then if you had a 15-minute Y crew, it's like, man, we're never going to get out of here. And some nights, man, I stayed at Lumpini Stadium for 4 hours watching fights one night. And they were fast. There were a lot of fights. It was 2 or 3 different events were all held at one night. So the Y crew, I love it, but it's hard to get people that don't understand what. Like the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but I don't understand it. So you're going to get turned off by it if you're not a fan of the martial art. If you're just a fan of fighting, you'll want to see it once and then you're over it.
One thing that I think is very interesting about the Y crew, and it's something that I think people can appreciate even if they're not into kind of the spiritual side of the Y Crew is when you get in there and you're doing the Y Crew, what you're doing is basically you're paying respect for, to your teacher. You're thinking about all the people that have helped you along your journey. And, it's kind of, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Man, I can't find the right word that I want to say here.
Spaghetti.
But basically, what it does is the frame of mind that it puts you in is if you're nervous or you're scared, it puts your mind in a different place. It puts your mind in a different place that's going to calm you. And part of the little dance, yeah, it does warm you up. But to me, the real value of the Y Crew is where it puts your mind. It's helping put your mind at ease. It's almost like a psychological little exercise that you do to trigger yourself to be in the right state of mind to compete. And if you watch a lot of these mindset coaches, they're teaching something that's very similar to what the Thais are doing with the Y Crew, which I think is very interesting. And you could even say the same thing about bowing. Like if you have the right intention in your mind when you bow, every time you bow, it's going to trigger that state of mind and it's going to put you in a different state. And a lot of times if you're kind of nervous or you're scared, it's going to kind of ease those emotions.
I just when I was at the gym with Wonder Girl and Supergirl, the father is their coach, and I asked him, if I could record one of them doing the Y Crew. And Nat, she's the older one, Wonder Girl, and he said, yeah, she has a great Y Crew. And then I said, you speak good English. Can you explain it to me? And he got kind of nervous. And I'm like, I'm trying to explain to him what I wanted him to do. And basically I wanted him to just kind of, while she's doing it, to stand next to me and explain what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
His explanation to me, which makes sense, is he's like, I know the tradition. I do not know exactly why everything goes the way it does.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I don't want to tell you something, and somebody that does know. And this is a person that's raising champions. Like, he's been in Muay Thai his whole life, and he's in Thailand. And he's like, I don't know the exact root of it. So I don't feel comfortable explaining the whole thing to you and then possibly explaining something wrong. He goes, I could do research on it and then do that for you, though. So what he did tell me, his analogy was, okay, you're from America, and I see you guys jump up and down, yelling, getting ready to fight. A Thai, if no one knows, if some people don't know, you're getting a massage before you fight. So you're laying on a table, your team is rubbing you down with Thai oil, a full body massage to relax your body, to make sure your muscles are loose. When you go into that ring, you're not supposed to be amped up. You have to fight. So you need to be calm. And it's the Buddhism way, like the relaxing and things like that. So when you go in there, and that's what he's explaining, he's like, yeah, you're sealing the ring, but what you're also doing is getting comfortable in the ring. You're getting comfortable with the crowd. You're getting comfortable with the noise, the smells, everything is calming yourself. Because you don't want to run in there and jump around and scream and get yourself amped up. You want to calm yourself so you'll be able to think straight. And that was cool. Is like, I kind of got that, but when he explained it, I'm like, yeah, I could see it's the relaxation of the mind the whole way, and then the body. Mm-hmm. The whole way through until you're fighting. And even if you watched Muay Thai, the first couple rounds of a Muay Thai fight is still relaxed feeling out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just a different aspect of the Y Crew, of what he was telling me. So the tradition of the Y Crew is amazing. It's beautiful, but it's very, very focused on if you are into the culture of Muay Thai, not necessarily the fighting of Muay Thai. Because if you love Muay Thai fighting, you could watch lion fights. I don't think they do it all. I think some people do it in lion fight, but they don't do it in lion fight all the time. Or you'll see foreigners that just don't do the Y Crew at all.
Yeah, I had one of my guys compete in Muay Thai Global here in the the U.S. And they had all the fighters sealed the ring, but only I think the main event did the Y Crew.
Okay.
Which I think worked out pretty well, because if you just seal the ring, it doesn't take very much time at all. And then basically what you were saying earlier, you kind of have to Americanize it and speed it up a bit,
Yeah, definitely. And it sucks, but it's what it is. I'd at least like them to be able to preserve that tradition of the sealing of the ring and the paying respect, even if it's a short version of it.
Yeah. And the word I was looking for earlier was gratitude.
Okay.
Gratitude was the word I was looking for. And actually, Tony Robbins has a quote that gratitude kills fear, which I find interesting, that you're paying gratitude to your coach right before you're doing something that is going to invoke a lot of fear, fight. So I think that the ties are really on to something with that Y Crew.
I've watched people from 6 years old to probably 50 years old in a Muay Thai ring, in a Muay Thai fight, which is elbows, fists, knees, kicks, everything. And I have never honestly seen somebody go in there and look scared.
Mm-hmm.
I've never, it's a calm, even the kids, they never look scared. And it's because of the mindset of what they're doing. I think they're definitely in the right place when they get in the ring.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you could say the exact opposite for some of the MMA shows that you go to. You could see the anxiety in these guys' eyes as soon as they're, walking out. You could see that they probably have much better technique in the training room, but when it comes down and the nerves are getting to them, they just, they wind up just throwing haymakers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I told you before, I walked on the mat, I don't know how many tournaments in jiu-jitsu, and maybe it was weight cut or whatever it was, but I walked on the mat and I almost passed out. And I have anxiety for that kind of things. I don't like public speaking and things like that. So I remember walking on the mat and going, oh, wow, I need to compose myself because I'm about to pass out. I felt lightheaded and I'm like, what the hell? And I won the match that I was in, but it was that anxiety of going out there because I personally don't do a lot of warm-up before jiu-jitsu tournaments. I don't know. I just never – I like to be calm, but I don't warm up. You have some guys that'll warm up for an hour before a tournament. And I just kind of like to just get ready and go. I don't know. I don't know what it is personally. Everybody has their own thing, but I like to just, okay, now it's time to go. But yeah, I remember being that anxious and having anxiety where I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out and we haven't even done anything yet. So
yeah. And the mental side of it is pretty big. I don't think, if you haven't competed before, you probably don't recognize it, but yeah, that mental side, calming your nerves so that you can do the things that you've trained and take the risk that you need to take, takes a pretty calm mind. You have to think very clearly.
Oh yeah, as soon as you get worked up, like you said, you're going to be throwing haymakers, or you're going to be, wasting a lot of energy. After my first jiu-jitsu tournament, I'll always remember the adrenaline dump. I don't remember. I couldn't lift my arms. I was just sitting in a corner. I was like, this is insane. I had never competed on anything like that. So I was like, oh my God, I won, but I'm like, I can't lift my arms. How am I going to even keep going? So yeah, the mental thing is huge, and that comes with experience. So with the Thais, I believe it's, they fight so much that they kind of just wear that out of themselves very early. I talked to one of the fighters, Savas he's from Pettendy, and he fought one, and Khalil asked him, he's like, how was it getting in the cage? Because he had fought he had fought at Lumpini, he's fought at Raja, he's fought all these places, but then at one is a different level. One is a different production level, everything like that, one championship. And he's like, Khalil was like, were you nervous getting in there? And he's like, no. because he had gone through it so many times already, and if you know the crowd at Rajadhanarm, that crowd is nuts. I took audio last week when I was there for the fights. I just took audio of the crowd, and if you re-listen to the audio, like audio in that stadium is electric. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So-
it's awesome just to listen to the crowd.
I have the whole thing, and it's like they're going, oi, oi. It's I'll have to upload it, but it's just cool to hear that. Like, I want to upload it just with like one picture, so people will just listen to the audio. All right, let's get on to the next. There's a few more comments here. So, what was the next one? Is not that one from Shane. And Shane, I actually met up with him. He trained over at Tiger not too long ago, a few months ago. Bowing should always be present, but I think the strikers in MMA started what? But I think if the strikers in MMA started to do Y crews, it would get some scrutiny. I love them, but the majority wouldn't understand. There should always be some respect involved, though. In MMA, 99% of the chance they at least touch gloves, when they come out to fight. So there's that little show of respect. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but whatever. And yeah, the bowing thing is always just going to be a personal thing. I bow when I shake hands with people. I mean, obviously not to the extent of when I go to train, but like when I shake hands, I always kind of, I don't know, there's like a little bow for whatever crazy thing that it's ingrained in me now. Kind of like we did when we were done training. You shake hands, you bow.
Yeah.
I do that when I do that in public to normal people.
Yeah, I know. I do the same thing, and then I get some weird looks, and a couple people have even called me out on it. They're like, why do you bow? I was like, oh.
Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But then my explanation of it just comes off kind of douchey. Well, it's because I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. It's kind of.
It's almost like, for the most part, unless somebody knows me or if they ask me directly, I never tell them that I train anything, because then I come off like one of those guys that nobody likes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and at home I don't. Here I do, because they ask why you're here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I always, what are you here? Oh, why are you in Thailand? Thai boxing. I'm not here for the red light districts, I promise. So, I'm here for Thai boxing. Oh, Thai boxing. And then they want to talk about, Thai boxing. So that's cool.
Yeah, and over there it's a little bit different too, because people don't tough talk the same way.
No. Yeah.
People don't say they train Muay Thai to sound tough. They, like everybody trains Muay Thai over there, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
I mean, almost like if you were like, oh, you came over to the United States to learn baseball, nobody's gonna like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you here for? Oh, I'm, learning baseball. Oh, cool. Okay. The same thing here. You come here and they're like, they think it's cool. They because there's, I believe that they embrace us coming here and training, because a lot of us really, fall in love with Thailand through Muay Thai, and we're learning the tradition of Thailand, which we're not just taking just the Muay Thai part of it. We're learning more of actual the culture. Because Muay Thai is such a huge part of the Thai culture. All right. And Bill, I know Bill. I trained with him. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I trained with him at Renzo Gracie in New Hampshire. The traditions of respect are sometimes lost in the informality of MMA, and that is the truth. This is problematic, yet the Y crew can be lengthy, perhaps working a shorter version. Yeah, like we touched on before. Exactly. I believe that MMA is only losing them because, one, the gyms are letting them. For once, you're going to do, like I said before, what the gym asks you. I told a crew here, I told him, he had told me about an MMA fighter that came here, and the MMA fighter was telling the crew how he was going to train. Oh, I don't run before I train. The crew was like, what do you do? Like, what do you mean you don't run? Kind of like the crew told him to run, and this MMA fighter said, I don't run. I was like, wow. I was like, if you told me to run to the 7-Eleven and get you coffee, I would run to the 7-Eleven and get you coffee. Like, me personally, I'd try to take it If you're my instructor, you're telling me to do things for a reason. May sound cheesy, but even like, you know how the Mr. Miyagi thing was, like all the stupid things he had Daniel-san doing, but he was teaching him stuff at the same time. When I go into one of these training sessions with somebody like Sagat or some world legends from the golden age of Muay Thai, I've said it before, I go in there like I've never trained anything before. And not necessarily like, oh, I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm doing, but with as open of a mind as possible to try and take in as much of this. So if one of those guys, any of the crew that I went to was like, hey, go mow the lawn. All right. Like, okay. And I would just do it because I'm trying to learn from these people. I'm not trying to teach them. I'm trying to learn from them. I'm trying to take in whatever they offer me. So for somebody to come in and tell a coach, I don't do that, that's mad disrespectful. It's just I as me being a coach, if somebody was like, I don't do that, I'm like, well, then you don't train under me. That's just, if you don't respect me, then how am I going to tell you to do anything? How are you going to listen to me when you're in a bad position and you think you know more than me? Then there's not a respect, there's not a mutual respect, so it's just not going to work. So even in the training aspect, if I said to do something and you were like, no, I don't do that, then it's not going to work out with us, So, I mean, that's my point.
I think a lot of times too, you don't see the value in something until you actually start doing it. Like your coach might be like, oh, you need to do that. And you're like, I don't know why I need to do that. But then once you start doing it, you'd be like, oh, I see why I'm doing that.
Yeah, we have a lot of bad habits, like you've said before, we've trained at a lot of different places, and then each place will change something little, and you're like, oh, either it works or it doesn't, So if you're not open to taking those suggestions, you're never going to find what will make you improve.
Exactly.
All right, so yeah, I agree. That's shorter Y crews. I agree on the bowing. MMA is kind of like okay, when MMA started, there was martial artists in MMA. Now, there still is martial artists in MMA, but MMA has almost become its own entity. People go to train MMA. So they go to a gym and they want to be an MMA fighter. And then the coaches will go, okay, but you have to train stand-up, you have to train either wrestling or jiu-jitsu, and then you have to train them all together in MMA class. So you're kind of given the option to throw away some of the tradition. I think if you were just training jiu-jitsu, you would have more tradition. But then again, like I said before, I've gone to schools with the elite level black belts, and they don't care if you bow. They don't care about any of that stuff, so it's going to be where you're at. It's not, we don't have that karate mentality anymore where you have to be, that real strict teacher that's yelling out like a drill sergeant, which I like to do. I like to do it when I'm training, when I'm coaching, but in a joking way. Like I try to motivate people, with energy. Like I said before, if you're giving off energy, your students give back energy. So I don't, like, if I'm getting loud or something, I've never disrespected a person in any of my classes. I've never put anybody down. Everything's positive. If I'm getting loud, it's because I'm trying to give them energy, give them more of myself to get them to react more. But it's always like, I respect anybody that, I don't care what age you are, male, female, whatever. If you come in and you want to train and you put, all I have ever asked from any student is just don't stop. Do as much as you can. That's all. I don't care if you can't do it all. Just do as much as you can. You don't quit, and then I'm good. You've put in your work, and I can only praise that. What's the next one? Who do we got? We went over Bill. Mr. Michael Orville. He also is from Henzo Gracie, New Hampshire. All my guys out there. The next comment is from Michael Orville, and he is the owner of a martial arts academy himself. He says, I think there's a place for tradition in MMA. The problem some arts have had is they've been rooted in tradition, so they became irrelevant. Yeah, I mean that goes back to like, I was like, you don't see a lot of kung fu guys in MMA. That's a very traditionally rooted martial art. Like it's not practical in MMA. And what is no? That's a Shaolin monk, right? The guy that fought Buakaw.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, and that guy was a monster.
You know, one of the things that I kind of have this theory, it could be total bullshit, I have no idea. But I feel like that traditional martial arts like Kung Fu at one time worked. At one time they were 100% legit 100, 200 years ago. And then over time they had to make it so that everybody could train that. Got so watered down, and then basically you arrive at what it is today.
So now
That's my theory.
No, and it's probably 1,000,000% right, because think about this. The Civil War, how did they fight? Do you know any, like, are you somewhat familiar with like how battles went?
They just had like muskets and bayonets and whatnot.
Okay.
Correct?
But they lined up. So
Okay.
this guy against this guy, they got in lines and
Ooh.
shot each other. No tactical nothing until people were left. So like they started out in these weird formations, straight lines or whatever it may be, and shot at each other until they had to move around. Like, so what you're saying, yeah, if Kung Fu in whatever region was the warfare, if you trained Kung Fu, I needed to combat Kung Fu, I learned it, right? So you're probably right that in those situations is like, if we're going to knife fight, we're both bringing knives. If we're going to fight and our martial art from our region is Kung Fu, we're both using that to fight each other. So it probably did work. But like when you started MMA, if you watch the first UFCs, like jiu-jitsu wasn't supposed to work against those big guys. Like they never thought it was going to work. Come on. You know, so that's mixing it up, because even strikers these days have problems with wrestlers because, man, you know, a wrestler can get in on you and pressure you. It's a different sport. So you're not – MMA is a level playing field in the part of everyone can train everything, but everyone doesn't train everything. So there's stylistic matchups that are, you know, bad or good for each other. Just like you're saying, is back in the day, if Kung Fu was trained in that region, I think it was very effective because the other guy was using the same stuff. You just had to be better at it. So yeah, I mean, it could be that way. Okay, and Michael goes on to, he goes, I agree. All my students bow into the ring or dojo, as well as to their opponent. We also wear traditional gi most of the time. Sometimes I think the systems are confuse outdated technique with tradition, though.
I think maybe when he's talking about tradition, he's referring more to like the cultural practices, like bowing and things of that nature. And then outdated technique, he's talking about things that maybe at one time were effective and that over time new techniques came out and they became less effective.
All right, so on to Dave Mazzani. We know that guy. So go ahead, and what's Dave got to say about this?
So Dave says, I respect my opponent. Shake hands, don't talk shit. With a training partner, I look out for their safety. Don't be a dick. Stay humble and try to learn from everyone, including people who are brand new. Respect everyone. This goes to instructors as well. This is enough for me. Bowing and doing a dance has never made sense to me because it's not a thing where I'm from. It would feel unauthentic, and I'm all about authenticity.
Now, when I read this, and I was like, wow, that hit the nail on the head. Like, for a lot of people, if you're doing a Y crew and you're not Thai, that makes sense. Okay? Because it's just not you. So, like, when Dave wrote that, I was like, oh, that was refreshing to read. Like, because I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, cool, the respect thing. But when he said, you know, doing the dance thing really made sense to me, because like if that's not your your thing, don't do it. Like if you haven't ingrained yourself with Muay Thai, don't just do it for the hell of it.
Yeah, and I like what he said because he's basically saying I show respect in the way that I was taught how to show respect, which I think is awesome because everybody shows respect in different ways, and he's basically showing the way that he was taught, which I mean, it's just good sportsmanship, really.
Yeah, definitely. And we've known Dave for a long time. He's always been cool with me.
Yeah,
Dave, he was a professional fighter and a champion in South Africa, I believe it was.
Yep, South Africa.
He trained with us at One Fight Team for a long time, and he's actually even a professional wrestler. So Dave was always cool to me. Good athlete, good fighter. So shout out to Dave, and I totally agree. Be authentic to who you are. If it doesn't click with you, don't do it. The bowing as a respect thing is cool, but he's already saying that he shakes hands and he respects all his training partners and his opponents. So he's at least showing some respect. It may not be the traditional respect, but he's showing the respect is the same way that you and I may bow to somebody. He's going to shake their hand out of respect. So I respect him giving respect. So I get it. And Panda jumped in and said it was well said. So respect is respect no matter how it's shown. This is Michael actually jumped in, Orbital, and he said, I prefer the traditional way, but that's not the point. The point is that anybody that has done this sport at any length of time knows it can all turn around in a second. If you don't respect your opponent in the battlefield, those that have gone before us, then the fail is going to be much harder. So basically, if you're going to be that dick that trash talks your opponent at the weigh-ins and then gets knocked out, you're going to feel like a bad guy.
Yeah.
We've seen that before. I'm sure you've seen those highlight videos. The guy that just thinks he's hot shit and throws his hands down. I mean, we've seen it firsthand at fights. You throw your hands down and get knocked out. Yeah, that wasn't very respectful, so you got what you deserved.
Yeah, exactly.
So all in all, I believe personally still that I'll bow. I won't tell somebody else to bow. If we used to tell people to do it at Vanderleys. But if it's not my house, I go by the rules of the house, by the rules of the gym. If they don't tell people to bow before they enter the mat, that's on them. That's cool. I'll do it. I prefer it. It's going to, as long as the person is not being disrespectful, I don't know that it has to be done with the specific tradition, unless that's what your school asks of you.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the main thing is if your school is teaching you respect in a different way other than bowing, that's cool. But I think that martial arts should instill respect into their students, whatever way they want to do that.
I mean, if you look at it, so as we start to wind this up, if your kid goes and trains football,
or wind it down,
wind it up. We're getting higher. All right.
Okay.
So if we're gonna wind this up. No, you wind it up. Wrap it up. Same thing.
Okay, I got you.
All right. So while we wrap this up, if your kid is gonna go play Pop Warner football, those coaches are gonna scream their asses off at your kid to get them to respect them. You see it all the time, and they get down on your kid to they get a respect. You don't see that in martial arts, so it's a different way, and you could kind of almost say that that's the tradition of coaching. Whether it's football or whatever it is, the coaches have to be looked up to in a sense. They have to have the respect, or you're not going to listen to them. Same thing in the military. If your higher ranks don't have respect, then people are going to do whatever they want. So it's like law and order in the gym. It's just kind of how it goes. I mean, I always looked up to you guys, being a lower belt than, like you for the whole time I trained with you. I always looked up to you. Like if you told me to do something a certain way, I wasn't going to go, no, I do it this way. I that would never cross my mind. So all in all, I think this conversation's good to have, but when we talked about it initially, I felt like my opinion is just, yeah, we should have it. But I also believe, yeah, I should have it. You know what I mean? Like, I need to worry about how I present it. Not necessarily, like I said, if it's at a gym that requires you to do A, B, and C, then just do it. If it's at a gym that doesn't require you to do any of it, I will still do what I do. Like, I'm still going to bow when I enter the mat. That's just what I've learned out of, my training. So it's not a bad thing. If somebody starts making fun of me, that's a little weird, but okay. So, it's just one of those things that's my opinion on it, but it's a good conversation to have. Since MMA has kind of, blanketed all of martial arts. I mean, how many times did we at Vanderlei's and somebody's going to come in and they're like, I want to train MMA. Like, well, realize that MMA is mixed martial arts. So that's like martial arts that you have to learn those to put them and incorporate them into MMA.
Yeah. There are guys coming in to train UFC.
Yeah, well, how'd that work out for them? It's like Vegas was the worst place to come in and go, I want to train UFC. I'm like, oh, man. You could probably, like, farther out in middle of nowhere somewhere, you could probably say that to somebody. But in Vegas, I mean, we were the home of the UFC, so how could you say in a gym that's owned by a UFC fighter that there's UFC fighters training with us, and you'd be like, I want to train UFC. You're just going to look like that guy. And then you'll get somebody that'll go, all right, I'll teach you UFC. With that being said, I think we got what we need here.
Yeah, I think we're good.
So
we got some good stuff in there.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you for listening. And that is the traditions of martial arts, whether they're going to be good, bad, irrelevant, whatever it is. I would say respect. That's all it needs to be done. Respect yourself, respect your training partners, your coaches. So anything else to add, Kurt?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right, and you know what that means. Don't say boom.
Boom.
Locks out moisture, seals in freshness. Good